Welcome everyone to the Master Vox, where today we have a Squire Joust Tournament with Lord Sox playing 5th Cavalry against Reteyha playing Grupa Hartnett. With me, we have Nilla. Nilla, say hi.
Thank you for having me back. I think you're going to like my beer choice more this time. It's a Fat Tire Belgian Amber Ale.
Ooh, as long as it's not that bullshit IPA, we're good. Also
I
with...
wasn't drinking an IPA before.
Oh, true. Also with us, we have Fmol. Now, Fmol's going to be an interesting one for this cast because he's a newer 1v1 player and he has questions. So we're going to answer his questions and try to make everyone better by, spreading the information out. So, Fmol, would you like to say hi as well?
Howdy, everyone.
Okay, so looking up north, we have Reteyha going hard, while we have Sox just putting like a block in action up there.
Yeah, I remember a few casts back, we've seen this action before, where up north was a focal point and down south was kind of chill. But this time it looks like Reteyha is, compared to the other cast, is evenly spread out here from the north down to the south.
Yeah, it looks like he pretty much just went 3 different zones, like north, center, and south, and just split his forces up into thirds. And Sox kind of went heavy in the main town in the south with like R1s and support. A Vickers 75 from the start? What?
Interesting.
Hey, Nell, I got a question for you regarding Reteyha. He's bringing Panzer III and B. Any reason why you would do that?
Mostly theirs for the availability of it. For the Panzer III, you're going to want to bring that out where they're going to be at the peak of their income. Then it's really preference. Me personally, I'd bring that out in A, but they're coming out at 1 bet, so you pair that up with a leader, you get that up to 2-3 bet. It's going to be a pretty effective unit against 5th Cav. It looks like a specific choice to bring out against 5th Cav since they lack armor support.
That's probably on the, probably on the forest side of the map.
Yeah, either probably where you're going to be in those buildings. So if the push hasn't happened into that building there where we're seeing Sox engage with Reteyha's right Jaeger, or up north where the R1s are in the middle, it'll probably be in one of those two if those towns haven't been taken yet. If they have been taken, it might be an exploit tool, or we might not see him at all.
The other thing you have to think about is Reteyha really only has Stoke 3s. He may have the Hetzers, but the APCR on the Panzer 3Ls will be able to go through either of those. So it's a really good counter for, 40 points?
Yeah,
look at all the artillery coming in for...
Panzer 3 ends in the support tab.
Oh, true.
Look at Reteyha bringing in 4 artillery pieces.
It's a lot.
Oh, those are the little 75 mils with the radio. Those are really good artillery pieces when you get them paired correctly with a leader.
Yeah, and then all of his... leader cards seem to have radio, so it's looking pretty good for him.
Yeah, they just have to remember to unload them.
Yeah.
They might be forgotten.
It looks like up north he's kind of we're seeing Reteyha has stalled up against Sox's forces here. One Rosiori is holding back so many Reteyhagas.
Yeah, I think that's really just a matter of fog of war there, thinking there's more there than there really is holding them up.
He's also probably microing his heart out when it comes to the southern portion, because we're seeing R1s break through right now, and we're also seeing him continuously try to push into Sox's lower quadrant.
Yeah, and there's that R1 scouting party going down on the road there that's going to get spotted here by the Marder 3, but the Marder 3 might get taken out here by this 45 mil.
Oh yeah, that 45 mil is going to have its way with that Martyr. Oh, but it's firing APCR, so it's going to be an extra hit in there. Because APCR does 3 damage, and I think those have 8 health, if I remember right.
Yeah, I believe so. Yep, and he gets pinned down by that Ersatz MG.
What's crazy to me is the fact that Reteyha has all 4 of his 75 mil guns out already, and it is just raining on Sox.
Yeah, and they're cheap too. That 50 points really makes them viable in a 1v1. So something that you might not be used to at Fmol is the weird units that you bring out. So one thing, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that I see in 10v10s are half-track mortars with their radio, because those are good at taking out heavy tanks and just harassing them.
Yeah.
But I don't... Fmol, do you really see Hartnett taken at all?
No, it's not a very common 10v10 deck.
Yeah, and I think these are the only this Heartneck's the only division with those FK231s too. So unicorn unit there in the 1v1 scene.
Yeah, and then they're used really well, especially because for the 50 points, it's 10 points cheaper than an 82 mil, and it can hit the entire map with radio. So great choice there. And they also have smoke, I think, right? No, they just have AP and HE shells. So
yeah,
they
you can use them as an AT gun in a pinch.
So they lack the versatility there, but at the same time, I would rather have those 50-point units just firing the entire map. Because right now, what we're seeing is that Reteyha pinned, or like not pinned, but like marked where that 60 mil mortar was, and we're seeing him actually use these as a counter battery because that Grenfuhrer is right there to be able to give them the firing coordinates.
I think Grenfuhrer might not be long for this world though. Those Razori are gonna do short work here to the right Jaeger.
Yeah, but those Right Jaeger being 4-star, I really like them because they have the 9 MP40s, so they're really like a Diet Avto Machiki squad with only 20 points.
Yeah, it's nice that they have the Panzerfaust as well. It's just remembering to turn off the rifles, because the rifles aren't really worth anything. They usually just give away your position more than it helps.
Yeah, that's a really big micro move with Heartneck, is you have to just turn off the rifles.
Yeah, super niche. Bring our attention back up north. The little holdout there of that Razori has fallen. They're no longer there, but now there's a fallback line here that's going to be defending the flag. So with that armored car there, machine guns, and the anti-tank guns, it's going to take a little bit of firepower, whether it be air power or artillery, to clear that out before the right Jaeger can push in.
Yeah, and for that, honestly, you're probably going to need that HE-111 that he's got in B phase to even try to push out. He could use the cluster trap that you always love to do, which is just cluster that entire area, pin everyone down, and throw the Rosiori out to, you know, surrender up the remaining, right, the Jaegers and Strauss troops and shit.
I got a question for you, even though I'm the old man diversity hire.
Well, we don't need that anymore. The Supreme Court said that's gone away with, so we're just here because you're here because we like you, not because we have to have you.
Yeah.
That's not... Well, thank you for helping me feel better.
If
I actually had feelings.
We needed someone from the Great Depression to really let us know what it was like.
That's true, because I
That's how we know you have
parts.
feelings.
So it seems like they got rid of the machine gun here between the ersatz and the town. That's just ripe for taking if, who's this, Sox? Then again, he's playing balance, so he's probably not trying to be very aggressive.
Yeah, pushing in that open area there is really risky. Either way, any point in the game, that's usually you see that fall when the game's essentially decided, and you can just move forward.
But there's nothing from either side that could have basically stopped any units. That's why I was thinking that at worst it's I don't think most of those actually infantry would even have the range to stop like that R2 if it had just gone straight north. But now he's reinforcing the area with Pioneer and VK9.
Yeah, those R1s are actually, that R2 is actually just bullying all of Reteyha's stuff, and it's beautiful to watch. Remember when we were talking about the Nav game? Oh, I have a shitty tank, but do you have a tank? That's
Exactly.
this right here.
You have nothing to stop this metal box with a cannon and a machine gun on it. I don't care if it's an FT-17 from World War I. You don't got anything to stop it, so it's gonna fuck your shit up.
Hey, they were great for us in World War I.
Mm-hmm.
Did
Yeah,
you,
a little antiquated now, but it takes tank.
I still have scars.
you were driving one over there?
I didn't know how to. I didn't know how to drive
So-
them. I'm not that old.
Was it a huge culture shock when you went from having no electricity to having electricity and running water?
I can't recall. My memory is that bad.
It's the Alzheimer's, I think.
What's Alzheimer's?
What?
What? I answered you already.
Back to the game here. We can see the Ju-87 hit the Panzer 38T or the Ag Panzer 38T and just barely miss it, but freaks it out and makes it fall back. And zooming in on the unit model, it's taking no damage. So that's one thing too, is even if you miss with the cluster bomber on a tank that's annoying the hell out of you, you can still get it out of the fight for a short time. And by the time it's back into position and reeling the fight again, if you're lucky enough, your cluster bomber might be up and ready to take it out.
Yeah, and what I think that was, whenever he was pushing into the northern, or that central little town right there with the light grenadiers, he had his Puska anti-car looking down that road, which gave him line of sight to that Hetzer. And what ended up happening is he moved that Puska anti-car in further to the town, so the cluster bomber actually fired on the last known location of that Hetzer. So because that Hetzer kept moving in a Q move, it missed it by just like a cunt hair.
Good eye. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, it's like the little shit like that where you have to know if you lose that line of sight. So for that, you leave that Putska anti-car there and you let it die like a man. But you get that information to that Stuka, because that would have denied him the ability to have his metal box with a big cannon. And then the R2 would have reigned supreme until the Martyr 3, might have tried its luck.
I love how spotting works in the game. You can have a unit with no radio on it telepathically communicate with a plane in the sky.
I mean, you can't really blame them for the mechanics because it's an RTS. Hey, if you want that much, like, autism in your, like, video game, go play Hearts of Iron 4.
Different kind of autism, but I see your point.
Yeah, like, it's still an arcadey kind of game. And it has to be, because they have to make it fun.
Who would have thought that the biggest RTS after StarCraft was going to be a game that looks like Risk?
I mean, people get to live out their fantasies of the Germans winning World War I or World War II, so...
Yeah, it's great. That's just fantasy.
Yeah.
They should make one about the Allies winning. Oh, wait, they've done that twice.
Yeah, it's called real life. All right, back to the game real quick. So what we're seeing right now is these R1s, even though they just have machine guns, holding back this entire Hartnett force. It's crazy to see. And also,
and
a 45
point
is...
out
What?
real quick, too, the reason we're talking about Hearts of Iron 4 and picking on the Krauts for losing 2 times in a row is look at what their allies are fielding. Look at that R1. We said a tank's a tank, which is cool and all, but the best tank that the Germans really get here for the town fight are the ones that they stole from the Russians. So...
Well, no, actually, they're the ones they stole from the Czechs, which is the Hetzers, because that's a Panzer 38T with an upgrade pack on the chassis, which is just literally a Pack 40 thrown into a shell.
And their good artillery is stolen from the French. If it's not bolted down, the Germans were going to steal it.
True, but that Vickers ACA 75 mil, wasn't that stolen from the French as well?
Vickers, I think that might have been British. I could be wrong, though. But I think the Romanians produced that one on their own.
Oh, yeah, they just have weird licenses and stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, one comment, all the artillery pieces in the back are out of HE.
Yeah, that's one of the downfalls of that piece. It only has 48 rounds and 12 rounds a minute, so in a couple of minutes, you'll just be out of ammo for that thing. And resupplying it here is extraordinarily cost inefficient. And the way that these were set up here, you see that there could have been 2 supply trucks called out to report, resupply 2 at a time, but that forest is getting in the way of that.
Now, Nilla, wouldn't you have used that Ju-87 cluster on the Hetzer?
You mean the second?
There's another one.
Never mind.
Yeah, and his Rosiori have line of sight on it, so he doesn't lose line of sight, so the Ju-87s continue to hit those specific targets, if that makes sense.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
I want to point out, too, good strategic foresight here from Sox to make a point of holding the south there. Yeah, there is a big bulge in their line, but being able to hold that forest there allows your line of communication to not be disrupted. Because if you kind of look at the tactical situation there, you have that long strip of dense forest that cuts off your reinforcement road into the town. So it's crucial that you hold on to that. You don't allow it to get pushed on because it opens up the town there and that flag to be taken.
It does, and if you can sneak like a Panzerschreck or something else like really sneaky into one of those forests, you can get good line of sights to start interdicting reinforcements into that town. So while you're putting pressure, you're actually creating an ambush position.
Ooh, really good use of the Ju-87 in the middle here.
Ooh.
There was some micro going on with it where it lost line of sight on the Tiger. Sox picked the unit, told it to fire position the ground, got line of sight again, and then targeted the Tiger. That was really, really quick by Sox there.
Yeah, and one thing that you need to know, just in general to know, if you lose line of sight and you attack round, but you're like right on the bombing run, like guns are laid, the little wheel is spinning, the hamster is going, don't change it because it will pull off the attack run and it will do a loop-de-loop to come back. So if it's close enough, if it's good enough for government work, you let it hit that position.
Yeah. So of note, that Rosari assault that was hitting the furthest movement in, you know, the new unit change where you no longer kill the transport, the unit's able to disembark the troops. Yeah, that was huge to hold that back as well just now.
Yeah, and the Rosari assault are fucking fantastic CQC fighters. 2 flamethrowers, 8 Eastern European SMGs that are always better than everything else in the West, according to Eugen, but they just rip people apart within that 100-meter range.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot easier to be better than the Sten gun, though. The Sten gun's just a pipe with a barrel and a little nail.
Yeah, but can I make an Eastern European SMG and, like, with some shit from Best Buy, or not Best Buy, like Home Depot? Nope, but I can do that with a Sten. So each one of them has their purpose, okay? The Sten was like, what, like 3 quid 80 pence or something like that to make each one?
The Allies just looked at Fallout 4 somehow and they went, I'm gonna make pipe guns. We're gonna make pipe guns, everybody.
3 quid, they used to be my paycheck. So Nilla, at this point, where would you press for who? Well, I guess really because Reteyha's got to be the aggressive one.
Yeah, so if I'm Sox, I'm just going to keep using my Air Force because Reteyha has done nothing to counter the planes at all. There hasn't been any real AA brought out to try to stop it. Planes haven't been interdicting it, and it's just a constant train of Stukas and HS-129s dropping clusters on all the tanks. So if I'm Sox, I'm going to buy more infantry. I'm going to go sit down in the dense forest and in the buildings because if a tank shows up, it's not a threat. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be able to bomb it with a cluster bomber and then use those cluster bombers to stun infantry. That's one thing I'll continue to push is use your cluster bombers to stun infantry. This big push going on in the middle would be completely stopped in its tracks if we could see a cluster bomber hit it. It's going to all be stunned. That'll allow reinforcements to come in, get dug into the town, and slow that tick even more because Sox here, so that 15-9, Reteyha is really trying to make that final push.
Yeah, Reteyha is not trying to. He is making the final push at this point, in my opinion. Now, we have an HE-111 coming in. It's a little bit late on the information, but those 1,000-pounder, or what does it have?
250s.
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 Yeah, it should make a difference. It's just Sox has to get reinforcements in here.
There we go. There's an SDKFZ out in the field finally, which that thing will kill Stukas if it gets a continuous burst while the Stuka's over its target.
Very
true. He did bring in supply for all those artillery pieces.
Yeah, that's a really expensive there too. That's what are the supply trucks? 40 points times 3. That's, you know, a minute of income for their Maverick. Like that's a big investment.
At the same time though, he already has the infantry and he just needs to cut off the support weapons. So it's kind of worth it.
Ooh, the Stuka in the middle misses the T-34, and it's probably going to go down here to the SDKFZ.
Yeah, that SDKFZ is just way too lethal whenever you're close to it. So, here's a fun fact that I bet not many people know. You can smoke off anti-aircraft guns, and they won't shoot your plane down.
Yeah, pretty hard to shoot down a plane when you can't see it.
Like, we get it, bro, you vape, but if it stops the SDKFZ from actually firing because it doesn't have a proper line of sight, you can bomb that cloud of smoke.
Do you mean that mortar that has 20 rounds of smoke that's not being used right now?
Yeah. At the same time, we're seeing the South crumble. That mortar's kind of just like holding on for dear life and trying to project like there's a force in that forest, so it's a bluff.
One thing too to point out that Sox made a big mistake on here is they went too heavy into planes. There was 2 Stukas, 1 HS-129, an HE-111, and then this BF-109 flying around. That's a lot of income there as a balance against a Maverick, where that would have probably been better spent sitting infantry in buildings and clogging up the push over time rather than having most of your income in planes.
Either that or just having a Reteyha look down that main road where that Vickers 75 was. If he had it further back, it could have interdicted a lot. That 2K Reteyha, oh god, it's probably the best anti-tank gun in the game.
Here we see the Panzer III's that Fmol's talking about coming out, and they're going to probably be used here to exploit the breakthrough that's happening in the middle. And they're the perfect tool for this job here. 70 front armor. Any of the anti-tank guns that are going to be on the field here, the 45 mil, will be probably at an APCR range, so it's going to struggle with its AP shell at 75 pen at max range. And then these Horches are going to be rolling around, and those Horches aren't going to be able to do anything to those Panzer III's.
Very true.
And you just brought out 6 of them at once.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow,
you get
he
those
really
down
did.
south. Yeah. Yeah,
Now-
this is probably going to be the finishing blow here.
Yeah, because those Rosciori assaults have the Molotovs, which are fantastic. Though, he's gonna carve a lot of these people down, because none of them have, like, actual CQC loadouts. With the 4 Beretta SMGs and the 8 Carbinos, like, he's gonna take his pound of flesh, but he's not gonna kill them all.
No, and since they're Hungarians, there's going to be so many of them left over that it's not going to make much of a difference. Yep.
Wait, did Sox just buy an HS-129B2 cluster bomber on top of already the 2 Stuka bombers, on top of the E4 and the HE-111? What?
That one was, I think that one was already out. That was out earlier. But yeah, that was to my point, is there's so much in planes when it should have been more into holding ground and just whittling Reteyha down instead of trying to take out the big ticket items. You only need 1 or 2 cluster bombers to threaten those big ticket items.
Yeah, like, if you have them, the threat of having them is enough. You know, like, where, okay, do I throw this Tiger out, or without having anti-aircraft? You know, you force your opponent to start thinking about other things. Like, do I try to interdict it? Do I say fuck it and send it? Like, what does your opponent do because they see you have that Stuka? Because if they're smart and they have, like, a heavy tank like a Tiger that's 140 points, 130 points, something like that, do you put an AA gun up with there, causing you to spend more money? So if you got that SDKFZ, that's what, 115 points off the top of my head? Like, you're looking at it like an expenditure on top of the expenditure to be able to push, because you know that your opponent has those cluster bombers or stuff.
Yeah, and it's about the added use of those cluster bombers. You have 2 of them. Those Stukas, I think, are 90 points. Like you were saying, you bring out all these, like, 120-point units.
Yeah.
You bring out the 2 SDKFZs and you kill a Tiger with it, or keep the Tiger from pushing up. Even if you don't kill anything, you're making your opponent not spend money on pushing and making another unit be null and void.
Yeah.
He must have bought a second HS-129 because that one just came out.
Yeah, and that one, the other
Yeah.
one was fucked up when it went away, just like this one's going to be. So I think right now we're just seeing the mismanagement of the economy that he has available to him, with having a lot less frontline troops than he needs to have.
For sure. And you're also seeing the weak side here of 5th Cav, where there's only Shooks here to challenge these Panzer III's, which they'll do that job, they'll win that fight, but it's a lot of income to be putting into trying to take out Panzer III's when you have infantry sitting on flags still.
Yeah, now can that Panzer III heat shell actually do... Oh, it's dead, I can't see. Alright, let me find another Panzer III.
Can, but I don't think it was shooting the heat shell, it was shooting the AP shell.
Yeah, and so just like when you're fighting with Turan 2s or something like that, if you have something like a Panzer III and a Turan 2 that has both AP and heat, just turn off the AP shell. Just turn it off. And the reason why you want to turn that off is because the heat shell will maintain that 100 millimeters of penetration regardless of distance, versus firing the AP shell that will lose penetration over distance. I don't want to talk about the math there. Math is the devil. You can figure that one out yourself. But trust me, the heat is the better shell when you're looking at those infantry support elements to be able to kill medium tanks.
One thing, too, to point out strategically, if Reteyha pushes up north, that seals the game, because you call out a minute worth of income to just bolster that front line up there, have your right Jaeger push. It's going to freak out Sox, thinking that there's like a push coming in, there's 2 flags there, they're going to divert resources up north, and you probably make that money back instead of having Rosori just flood into the middle.
Yeah, well, right now what we're seeing is a complete collapse of the South. Those Reteyha MP44s, though they're not really the absolute best in close combat, that Molotov, along with the SMGs, along with the MP44s, means that it's going to fuck up whatever it hits in combat until they're out of Molotovs, and then they're just a normal, like, AFTO squad. But
Yeah, those things are gnarly.
the quality of CQC troops that Reteyha has been able to harness from Hartnett, it's glorious, it's beautiful, it's huge. So
There
Reteyha,
goes the Horch in the middle.
yeah, Reteyha, great job with your CQC troops, and you're forcing Rosiori, which are the line infantry, to try to duke it out with you and your MP44s in the forest.
Rosoriori are good if you don't have to run into, like you mentioned, those Reteyha MP44s. Like, if you run into Strelki or Panzer Grenadiers, you're going to do just fine up close, but run into something with Molotovs and STGs, you're going to lose that in a forest.
I mean, fuck, if you look at it, the Rosiori can even go toe-to-toe with, like, rifles, like, early from the US, even though they all have semi-autos, and CQC, just because they have such a good combination of that Beretta machine gun, that Carbano semi-automatic, and the 2 automatic rifle machine guns.
Yeah, Fmol. So when you're playing like 10v10s, bigger games like that, do you have to think this nitty gritty about infantry loadouts, or is it kind of just take Strelki, put them on the front, and let them kind of do the dying, while the artillery and tanks do the killing?
In general, yes. Now, one thing I noticed on here, because I'm still not familiar with the 1v1, because it's just a different way of playing. I would not have put as much into Era's socks, but I definitely would have done some Arty and some AA. Actually, no. Reteyha didn't really use any air, did he?
No.
Yeah, it
Hartnett's
would just been
air is,
Arty
like,
to
great.
counter Arty and to smoke off.
Like,
Yeah,
Hartnett has a 1K pound bomber. That's about all you really need. Like, so the 1K pound bomber and then your BF-109 E4s. So we're talking, like, Spanish Civil War shit, but they're fun. So those are the only 2
Hey,
planes
it
you
was
really
fun.
need.
Come on, those were good days.
You were in the Condor Legion.
No.
I can't talk about that.
He was with the anarchists.
Yeah, right. Flying around in the Russian biplanes.
Yep.
Now I know you like playing balanced against Maverick.
Mm-hmm.
Is it because it's a challenge to see if you can hold it off, or is it just kind of a different approach?
If it's a competitive game, it's kind of the matchup and the map and like who I'm playing against. But that's been such a long time. Really, now when I'm playing quick play, it's just to see if I can flex on somebody and be like, yeah, I still got them skills.
And he does. I've seen it. It's crazy. It's beautiful. All right. So with that, yeah, if we look at the KD right now, we can kind of see the out trading that happened between 5th Cav and the group Hartnett. I think a big thing with that was the ability of Reteyha to get all of the support equipment to aid his Hungarian infantry and his German infantry in the front to take less casualties to conduct better trades.
Yeah, and one thing about infantry too, both players used infantry in the right context. So where it was more open lines of sight, like city fighting, where it's like you're shooting across the field at another building, it was the line infantry. When it was the dense forest, it was the CQC infantry. So good use of the set of tools that the infantry was built to use.
Yeah, both players, I would say, use their infantry in a great way. We saw Rosiori doing delaying actions in the forest because they could. It was just the fact that Reteyha had more CQC troops. And I think that might have been a deck building thing with Sox. It seems like he put a lot more into A than he should have, in my personal opinion. And I think that cascaded throughout B phase because he didn't have as much line infantry as he needed to be able to plug different gaps. But it was mostly, I would say, the great job of Reteyha with that support equipment. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. The support equipment did a wonderful job.
And with that, I would like to thank everyone for sticking through here. If you look into the description below, you will see an invite to the Kingdom of the Noobs, the Hobo Tango's Kingdom, where we have tournaments and stuff. It's not SDL, it's chill, it's medieval roleplay. You can have fun with it. They do tournaments. I cast tournaments. If you want to be cast, you have to be in that for the most part because too many people do SDL already. Other than that, I would like to say please like, comment, and subscribe. We just hit 100, so I don't know what the next milestone is. We'll figure that out when we get there. Thank you very much to my co-casters. We have Nilla and Fmol. So thank you guys both. And with that, please tune in next time for the next Master Vox cast. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
And bye-bye. Fmol,
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. All right. See you everyone in the next cast.